React is great. I can't wait for it to die. Let's talk about it. React is a framework that entirely changed how we think about the web. We went from a web where most of the time we thought of HTML, CSS, and JS as unrelated, separate concerns, and if you wanted your page to update after it loaded, shrug, find some jQuery, I guess. The main revolutions React brought with it were the ideas of obviously JavaScript owning and changing everything on the page. There were frameworks that had done this before, but none anywhere near as heavily as React did, especially once JSX was added. More importantly, though, React popularized the idea of components, breaking up your UI into isolated, reusable pieces that manage their markup, their state, and even their styles and other behaviors themselves in an isolated way where it can be reused across your application. This pattern made life so much easier for developers that were used to having to think about every single piece of the UI every time they made any change, because each button was bound arbitrarily to another thing in the JavaScript. And if the relationship between that button and that JavaScript wasn't very carefully managed, everything would just fall apart. Components made it easy to manage those relationships, and it made the bugs that result in those breaking much less likely and also easier to find. React has continued iterating, improving, adding things like hooks, adding things like context, SSR, server components, and all of these new behaviors and functionality. But we've also learned a lot from React in frameworks outside of it. We now have frameworks like Solid.js, like Svelte, like Vue, and so many others that I'm sure I'm forgetting right now. Quick, obviously. And all of these frameworks are taking the lessons that we learned from React about reusability and composability and are applying it without the pieces that made React slow and painful. React is still a great solution for a lot of developers and a lot of problems. And if we're looking to kill React like dead, like Ember dead, I don't think that can happen. React is too important and too successful to ever truly die. And if you learn React right now, you'll be able to find jobs using React for at least 20 years. I don't see that changing. But if we define React's death similar to PHP's death or jQuery's death, where it hits a peak of its adoption and it no longer is increasing, it's maintaining, or maybe slowly declining, maybe we can kill React. But I want to be very clear in setting expectations that React will not go away when it dies. React will just stop being exciting when it dies. All of that said, there are now paths starting to appear. The first thing you have to kill is the new project. Right now, way too many new projects are starting using React. And if you want to win, your first goal is to make sure no projects ever again are being started in React. So you have to make something compelling enough to get users who are knitting their first project, especially new developers who are getting started. You need to convince or maybe even trick them into using something else when they get started. Once you have won the start of the curve, now you have to win everybody else. This is the market. Generally speaking, when it comes to something, especially in the tech world, you can break down parts of the market and people and their decision making into these different categories. We have the innovators who, to be frank, are the people who are hanging out here watching this on a Wednesday afternoon or whenever this video ends up going live, talking about the deep, nerdy details about these frameworks. For every one of us, every one person who's excited and ready to adopt Solid, there are 5 people who haven't even heard of Solid. And if we want to win, we have to win here first, but then we come up against the next hard challenge, which is bridging this gap. How do we build something that wins over the enthusiasts and the people who are down to try something new and gets them to stop using React for new projects and always init with something else? How do we get over this gap from there? I think the key here is a deep understanding of React developers and their pain points. You have to understand the people here in this pragmatic section and what problems they have every day. And you need to give the people on the other side of the chasm the tools, the marketing, the features, and the story to tell to the people in the pragmatist category why they need to move over. And you don't convince them by showing them lots of cool features. You convince them by showing them how they can solve the problems they have right now. So you have to identify the pain points that exist in these different categories and then give the tools to the people in the categories you've already won to pull those people over and to bridge this gap. What that could look like is something like some work that I saw Ryan was doing recently in making it so you can mount solid components inside of your React app. The benefit there is if you have an existing React app and you have specific components or features within it that are really slow because it's hard to write performant React code when you have things updating a lot, and you have the ability to say, okay, from here down, all of the elements on this page are going to be using Solid instead of React, or all the elements for this chat are going to be updated through Solid instead of React. That allows developers to start adopting Solid that may not have been able to before, that might be in these categories, that might not have adopted Solid if they had to start from scratch with it. But if you give these people who might be working with these people the tools to adopt Solid and the solutions to the problems they have that lead to them wanting to adopt Solid, that's the magic combination. You need a problem you solve that React doesn't, and you need a way to integrate solutions that get the visionaries excited to tell everybody else about it. If you can find that combo, that magic pairing of a solution to a problem and enthusiasts who will talk all about it, that's when you win. And that's how Next won. And here's where we go into the final tangent of this rant. Is React already dead? We've all seen the meme of the developer who said, should I learn React or Next? Or I'm moving my React project over to Next.js. And as much of a meme as it is, there's some important truth to it. Next, in a lot of ways, did kill React. It is the thing that React was 5 years ago. Next is the framework that developers now reach for when they want to start a new project. It feels like the MERN stack again, where it's just the thing you grab. That is so powerful, and we've already seen Next bridge this gap, both by being so compatible and usable within the React ecosystem, by proving to those people that the problems they have can be solved by Next. We ended up seeing massive adoption. If a React developer had a website with bad SEO, use Next. If you have a website that's using React and it has really slow build times, use Next. If you're struggling to add backend or maintain the backend in its relationship with your front end, use Next. If you want to add SSR to your React page so each page comes down with the HTML correct, use Next. By solving these specific problems React developers were having in a way that helps them and their businesses be more successful, Next was able to dethrone React in excitement. And when you look at charts of satisfaction of frameworks and solutions, you'll see that Next is much more exciting to developers right now than React. Next is well positioned, if they theoretically wanted to ditch React in favor of something else. I think that's incredibly unlikely, but I think it shows the strength of their approach. By building into and around React, specifically by building into and around the problems React developers had, Next was able to build a very strong wedge in the market and is one of the few things positioned to meaningfully challenge React, which makes it all the funnier that they're so close now. But the point still stands. The addressal of problems React developers have is how you get React developers to move to your thing. And if you can convince enough React developers that your solution solves their problem, you will actually be able to kill React. It's going to be a hard battle, but I hope the tips here help the future framework builders make the future of technology solve the problems that the current developers have. If you can make my experience with writing web apps better and you can solve the problems I have with React, you'll convert me and you'll convert a lot of other people alongside me. Hope this was helpful. Let me know if you want to kill React and what you're working on to make that happen. Appreciate each and every one of you as always. YouTube seems to think you're gonna like the video in the corner here. It's a pretty good one. They wouldn't show it here otherwise. I haven't watched it in a bit, but it's pretty good. Thank you as always. Peace, nerds.